Hey guys, it's me, your average film geek, and welcome back to another video. So today, we're going to take a look at Silence of the Lambs, released in 1991. So Silence of the Lambs, for those of you who haven't gotten a chance to see this movie, it's a film in the horror genre, released in 1991, starring Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster. So in the film, Anthony Hopkins plays the role of Hannibal Lecter, while Jodie Foster plays the role of Clarice Sterling. So growing up, I wasn't allowed to watch a lot of horror films by my parents, so I think the closest thing I would consider horror in my life up until that point was Scooby-Doo, you know? So Silence of the Lambs was my personal introduction into the world of horror, and Anthony Hopkins did an amazing job of portraying Hannibal Lecter, this intelligent, complex, very poised psychopath. You know, he embodied all those varying characteristics so well, and it only lent itself to the betterment of the film. He gave an amazing performance, and he won an Oscar in that role. A fun fact, actually, Silence of the Lambs is one of 3 films to win the Big 5 at the Oscars. So when I talk of the Big 5, I mean Best Actor for Anthony Hopkins, Best Actress for Jodie Foster, Best Screenplay, Best Directing, and Best Picture. So the plot of this film follows Clarice Sterling. She's an up-and-coming FBI agent just about to graduate from the bureau, and she is tasked with the role of questioning Hannibal Lecter as the FBI seeks ways to capture Buffalo Bill, who is a notorious serial killer at the time, who goes about murdering women. And a fun fact also about Buffalo Bill, the character of Buffalo Bills is actually comprised of famous serial killers from the past. So for example, how Buffalo Bill in the film, he's outside the library and he's having this huge white van, and he acts like he can't get the couch into the van because he has a broken arm. That's something Ted Bundy used to do. If you know Ted Bundy, if you've seen the new Netflix documentary as well, you know how Ted Bundy used to prey on young girls, mainly from colleges and universities. Also, there's a scene where Buffalo Bill wears the masks, like the faces, like he literally cuts off the faces of his victims and puts them on his own face, and that's something that he got from Ed Gein, who was also a notorious serial killer in like the 20th century. Already you can tell how much work went into creating a good backstory for the characters. So watching the movie, one thing that struck me about Hannibal Lecter is typically supervillains are marked by their shows of dominance, you know, their shows of strength, their shows of might, their shows of power. But Hannibal Lecter has a certain stillness to him, which is quite like scary, you know. He's very slow to react, very slow to speak. He's very intelligent and very methodical in how he talks. And I really love that about him. I really love intelligent antagonists because they only raise the stakes, they only make the obstacle higher for the protagonist to overcome. Hannibal Lecter used to be a psychologist in his previous life. I think he was a therapist. So that goes to show you that he also has a deep understanding of the human mind, and that made him all the more dangerous. Hannibal has this very calm demeanor despite the crimes that he's done. I think the prison guard said that his heart rate never went above 85 when he was eating another human's flesh. That's something crazy. Or even in the scene when he attacked the prison guard, he literally bit off another guy's face, and like he just sat there and he was so calm, nothing fazed him. That's a very unique, that's the first time I've seen a supervillain, an antagonist, be so calm and be so poised and yet have the power that they did. I think another supervillain I would say, whom I would compare to Hannibal, would be like Raymond Reddington from the Blacklist series. Not like in terms of the violence nature of his crimes, but like the high IQ, the calm, cool demeanor, no matter how much stress they're under. Hannibal is a really scary character, man. Like that scene where he was saying how he ate a man's liver with some fava beans. I think that's also one of the most famous one-liners in cinema history. And even the motion that he did with his teeth after that scene, it just made me feel cold on my arm, you know? It was quite jarring. And even Clarice, you could see the shock on Clarice's face. This guy has done something so heinous, but he's saying it with such a calm demeanor, with a smile on his face, you know? Jodie Foster did an amazing job of portraying Clarice Sterling. So first of all, Clarice is one of a kind in the film. She's a female FBI agent, and within the universe of the film, we don't see many women like her. She's a very oddball in that sense, but then she's also lucky enough to have a boss or like a mentor who sees her worth and her value, and gives her the very big role of interviewing this infamous serial killer. But I think he also gives her this role to kind of humble her in regards to, she's very optimistic and very eager to do the job, and he's giving her this impossible task in an attempt to like bring her down a peg. But he's also very surprised with their dynamic between Clarice and Hannibal, and that's also something I really loved how the writers of the film did. They have a very tender relationship. It's almost like a father-daughter type relationship. He's very very polite to her. He's very accommodating to her. He speaks to her with a respectful manner, and he's also very protective of her. We see this when Miggs, who's another fellow inmate who's lost his mind, he spits on her when she's exiting the jail after her first encounter with Hannibal. And then the next encounter, we don't see him again. You know, so that goes to show you how their dynamic and their relationship was so beautiful, despite the darkness which surrounded their brief relationship. We even see when he escapes, Clarice is not bothered for her own personal safety because she knows that Hannibal doesn't have the intent to harm. He's very selective with his victims. And then now Buffalo Bill. Buffalo Bill to me was like the ultimate villain when I first watched this movie. You know, he's like the boogeyman, like the guy under the bed, the guy in the closet. He's that type of guy. He's so weird, he's so antisocial. And even the way they combined various real life serial killers and made him, it just made him so disturbing. When I first watched the film, Hannibal's character didn't even faze me. It was Buffalo Bill, how he'd put people in the well and wear their hair. Who writes this? Who just sits? I wonder how that writing session went when all these writers are sitting and then like this guy proposes of giving this guy like 10 different characteristics from real life villains. I don't know how that worked out, but it was so good in the film. That was top class, but it really also fazed me at the same time. Also, some fun facts about the film. There's this scene where Buffalo Bill is sort of getting ready in the mirror in like this like drag outfit, you know, but this time the weave is from like the actual head of a dead girl. And there's a scene where he's playing with like a nipple ring, and it's so cool that they made a prosthetic nipple ring just for that scene. Or even like the various insects that you saw, apparently they had like an insect specialist on set ready to give them moths at different stages of their life cycle, so from the pupa all the way to their maturity. And I found that really interesting how much work they put into the production design as well. I also read that Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster were not the first choice actors for Hannibal and Clarice. I think Nicole Kidman had been approached for that role, and also Pierce Brosnan, who played Bond, obviously was approached for the role of Hannibal. But thank God these two actors got the gig because they portrayed this film perfectly. One thing, whenever I watch these classics, I'm always really drawn to the picture quality of the film. Because I know like in the 90s and the 80s, digital production was not a big thing as it's commonplace today, you know, with the Red cameras and the Arri, Alexa, cinema cameras. So I love the way film looks today. You know, with Netflix, we have all this 4K, 8K, productions, all this output, but there's a look, texture, and like the film grain which I really love, and which is kind of sad because it's kind of been lost. You'll only see them in auteur films, like films where the filmmaker purposely used like film stock to achieve that grainy look. I think Kodak is the only company which makes film today. Like I know Tarantino uses the 35mm stock from them. I know Christopher Nolan does the same thing. Although I'm quite aware when I say that I like film and the use of film stock, I also have to be mindful that film is very expensive, was very expensive back then, and is even more expensive today because only one company produces the stock. And I know that digital production has given so many young aspiring filmmakers of all ages the ability to at least capture a story, to make a film. And that's one thing that digital production has over film. And that's the power of a good script. You know, Hannibal did not have a ton of VFX done to him. He didn't have a lot of makeup. They really gave him a good story. Jeremy Jahns, one of my favorite YouTube film reviewers, he said that this movie shows you in Hannibal that monsters can be human. So also in Buffalo Bill, it shows you that humans can be monsters. And that's just the power of a good script, of a good story. And that's something which I don't want to say has been lost today, but it's something that we don't see as much because a lot of today's productions, at least in my opinion, with the amount of content being pumped up on Netflix and Hulu and HBO Max and Apple Plus TV and Amazon Prime, a lot of content is fleeting. It's temporary. Rarely do we see like those long films anymore from like Scorsese or Francis Coppola. You know, like the Godfather series, I think one movie was like 2 hours and 45 minutes, but it was such an amazing, rich story. You don't even feel the time passing. But all in all, this was an amazing film. And for my first film in genre, I'm very happy that this was my baptism or my introduction into the world of horror. So I'd give this movie a solid 10 out of 10. Everything from the character development, the storyline, the production, the look of the film. It was an amazing, amazing masterpiece, and it's always a joy to watch. Okay guys, that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you enjoyed yourself, you can always leave a like and subscribe down below, and always leave a comment in the comment section. I'll always get back to you. So until the next video, it's been me, your Average Film Geek.